Alright guys, so what do you get when a writer wants to bring back something that isn't supposed to come back, but at the same time, they're like, hey, let's do something crazy, like have a guy punch the walls of reality and, let this guy come back to life even though he was voted to die anyways, and no one really liked him. Well, that there, boys and girls, is Jason Todd, aka the Red Hood, which is the person we'll be doing character bios on today, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be a very red one. Okay, so we have Red Hood. Now, Red Hood as a whole is, he has a massive cult following, and I'm gonna tell you guys about him. This is a new 52 version though, so there is no Superboy punching the walls of reality here. There is no whole him invading Titan's tower, fighting Tim Drake, him cheating against Tim Drake. So keyword cheated, because he can never beat Tim Drake in a hand-to-hand fight fairly. Obviously, Tim Drake is the most highly trained Robin ever. But yeah, moving on though, his real name is Jason Peter Todd. Abilities, peak human conditioning for his physical abilities like strength, speed, etc. It's the best it could basically be for someone of his height, size, etc. We have a master fighter, skilled marksman, detective, acrobat, assassin, etc. So a lot of that is due to him being the second Robin of Batman, because obviously that requires a lot of things. You have to be a skilled detective, acrobat, a fighter, obviously, because you're fighting crime. And then a lot of that is also due to what happens later on after he comes back to life. He's trained by Talia al Ghul, so that's where a lot of the whole assassin stuff comes in. And he's also he's infamous for using a lot of guns and knives, so the whole skilled marksman thing comes in from there as well. Equipment, he has various guns and knives. That's his primary weapons besides his fists. And he also has a red metallic mask. It used to not be like that, but eventually they've, especially because Under the Red Hood did very well selling that mask, kind of like that look, and it looks very sleek, and I actually like it personally too. So that's his mask, and it also, it gives him some protection as well, because it's a metallic mask, metal protection, so it has multi-purposes, I guess. Multiple purposes, not multi-purposes. What am I saying? Alright, so weaknesses though. He has average weakness of a human. Now I'm going to go into his origin, and just fair warning, I'm going from Jason Todd to Red Hood, so we're covering Robin as well. Even though it's going to be kind of brief, we're still going to go there. So this origin might be a little bit longer than we did for Superboy, but it's still going to be as informative, if not more informative. We start off with Jason Todd as a kid. He belonged to an unstable and poor family, his dad being a crook and his mom a drug addict. Now that is not the best combination to grow up with in the household. As you can see in the pictures, he kind of scraps for dinner, and his mom various times kind of OD'd on the floor a little bit. Now later on in life, when he was more of a young teenager, preteen I'd say, his father was arrested, leaving Jason with his mother, making Jason have to do things like steal and basically crime in general to get money in order to help his mom and things like that. Now, also Jason, he took on a more protective role of his mother, like keeping drug dealers away and things around that sort, because, without his dad, because his dad ends up dying in prison, his mom is the only one he really has left. So there's that. And then his mom does eventually die, supposedly. And, Jason, he still needs money, though, food, things like that. And he gets beat really badly one day. So he goes to the hospital, and before he leaves the hospital, though, he steals some medication, some drugs. And he runs into Batman in the process, and that's when he meets Batman. So, in the process of him getting arrested, would be arrested by Batman, though, a doctor that kind of took care of Jason talks Batman into not arresting him, but I guess kind of taking him in, which Batman does. And eventually from there we get Jason Todd to be the second Robin, which was which is traditionally trademarked with his brutality. He's always shown as a very forceful, brutal person, not really with finesse, more just kind of get the job done, don't really care about collateral damage type of guy. Which, obviously, from the original comics is not Jason Todd, but in the modern interpretations, to make him differ more, especially like in the New 52, they really use that angle. Like I said earlier, the bad boy of the Robins. And one day, though, Jason, he got in trouble with Batman for being too brutal with enemies, and he got put on monitor duty, which is like being grounded, basically, for Robins. And he was doing some, like, detective work, minor, really, just kind of flipping through images, and he saw what looked like his mother in the Middle East. So he dug some more into that, found out it actually was his mother, and went to the Middle East. Except for, sadly, it was the Joker behind all of this, and Jason was infamously murdered. Now, after Jason died, though, he was revived thanks to Talia al Ghul using the Lazarus Pit. So, remember, this is New 52, so no Superboy Prime punching walls of reality type of deal. And if you actually look at the picture that shows his funeral, we have Batgirl, we have Bruce Wayne, we have Alfred, and we have Dick Grayson. So, obviously, people, they care about him. And Red Hood has made a point in the comics that, mention they cared about him. Like, he knows that they actually cared, and he knows that Bruce tried his hardest to save him from the Joker, but alas, it wasn't enough. And also, I just want to make a point to say, we learned in Red Hood issue number 0, Red Hood and the Outlaws issue number 0, the Joker was responsible for setting up all of this from the beginning. Setting up Jason becoming Robin, setting up his mom and Jason dying, all that stuff. But the one thing he didn't set up for was Talia al Ghul bringing him back to life. And that is how he became Red Hood, because after that, he was trained by Talia a bit, and the reason why he's Red Hood is because before the Joker became the Joker, he was Red Hood. Now, that is, even though Jason doesn't admit it a lot of times in comics, he has said it a few times, that was his biggest fear, was the Joker beating him to death with a crowbar. And that's why he took the name Red Hood, because like Batman, because he took his name from his fear of bats, Red Hood, Jason took his fear of the Joker. Obviously he's not going to call himself the Joker, but what was the Joker before he was the Joker? Red Hood. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is why that is his name, just in case you didn't know. So let's go to his abilities. Now, Jason having been trained by Batman and Talia al Ghul among, just prior experiences in general, after and beforehand. He's a master fighter, knowing several martial arts. Skilled detective, mostly from Batman being the world's greatest detective. Acrobat, part of his training as Robin. Marksman, assassin, etc. He's also in peak human condition. So I mentioned all of this earlier. I'm just kind of rephrasing it again in case you forgot, I guess. And that is basically it for character bios. Weaknesses, I'm not going to go back and cover that because he's a regular human. He has the average weaknesses of a human. I don't know how to explain that any more further than that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please subscribe, comment, and like. Leave a comment below with who else you'd like to see. Now, this is not restricted to just DC characters. I can do Marvel, Image, Dark Horse, Valiant, IDW, Shonen Jump. I don't care. Any comic book character I will do, as long as in the comic book world they have more than like 5 issues to their name, because you need a certain amount of information for these characters to talk about them, obviously. And the purpose of this show is to tell you guys about these characters. So if you're interested in the characters, you can just get a brief history about them and then pick up their comic and have at least some knowledge. Or if you don't know about these characters, this will hopefully educate you on them and maybe even get you interested in reading about those characters. Now, I hope this did get you interested in Red Hood, but at the same time, please be wary, the comic he is in currently is not the best representation of him. Now, I'd highly recommend reading the first few comics that Jason came back as Red Hood, because those were some of his best, like the Hush storyline where he came back and kind of messed with Bruce a little bit before Clayface took over. You also have when he attacked Titan's Tower. Like, those are some pretty big moments, especially he was more of a villain back then, and slowly through his popularity, became an anti-hero because, they can't have a villain become really popular, obviously, because this is DC Comics we're talking about. And also, watch watch Batman Under the Red Hood, because even though it's not exactly like the comics, it's pretty close, and it's a great representation of the character. It's great. Just don't get that confused with his real origin and who the character really is, because they obviously they take liberties. So heads up there. So yeah, this is Hybrid. Please subscribe, comment, and like, and I'll see you guys later.